Okay, so today we're going to create a minimalist face, something like this. So the very first thing I'm going to do is create a new artboard, and then I'm going to take my rectangle tool, and I'm going to draw a green rectangle to cover the entirety of my artboard. So I'll take my swatches, and I'll switch my color from white to green. Okay, now I'm going to open up my layers, and I'm going to lock this layer because I'm going to keep this layer as the background. So I'll lock that and I'll create a new layer, and on the new layer I'm going to draw my face. So to draw the face I'm going to use my rounded rectangle tool, the rounded rectangle tool. So the rounded rectangle tool has extra anchor points, so I'm going to first throw in some color to make this look like a skin color. So switch it from green to my skin color. And then I'm going to take my direct selection point, and I'm going to use my direct selection tool to adjust those two anchor points to make them look like a chin. Okay, so I'll move those down, and once I got that squared away, I'm going to take my ellipse tool and I'm going to draw an oval that I'm going to then turn into an ear. So I'll take my direct selection tool and move that bottom anchor point to give this more of an ear shape. So I can line that up on the head here. And then I'm going to copy that. So to copy it, I hit Control C and then Control V to paste it. And then I'm going to flip it around. So I'll go up to Object, Transform, and Reflect. And I'm going to reflect that vertically. Click OK. And I'm going to line it up here on the other side. And I'll know that it's lined up with the ear on the left side because I'll see that pink bar going through the center. Okay, so once I've got those things all lined up, I'm going to select all three of those shapes. I'm going to use my Pathfinder tool and I'm going to unite them together. Now that I have my head done, I'm going to go ahead and start working on the hair. So I'm going to use my ellipse tool and I'm going to draw an oval shape. This is going to be the side of his hair. I'm going to take my direct selection tool, I'm going to click on that bottom anchor point, and then I'm going to use my convert anchor point to corner option. So when I click on that, it'll give that a sharper point. I'm going to push this side in just a little bit, and then I'm going to copy that shape by hitting Control C to copy it, and then Control V to paste it. And now I'm going to reflect it. So I'll line up on the other side, go up to Object, Transform, and Reflect, and I'm going to go ahead and reflect that vertically as well. So I'll take another oval and throw it on top to close in my hair. I'll use my direct selection tool to adjust a few of these anchor points and move my hair into position so it looks like a nice Lego man hairdo. And once I've got those in position, I'm going to select all three of those shapes and then unite them with my Pathfinder tool. And I've got an extra anchor point, so I'm going to use under my pen tool, I've got the delete anchor point option. So I'm deleting one of those anchor points on the other side and adjusting his hairline so he has a part only on one side instead of on both sides. And now I'm going to add a curl to the top of his head. So to add the curl, I'm going to draw a skinny ellipse. I'm going to take my direct selection tool, click on this bottom anchor point, convert that to a corner, and then I'm going to go under Effect, and I'm going to use Warp and Arc, and I'm going to arc my shape vertically, not horizontally, and then I'm going to put 100% bend on it, so I've got a nice bend. So we don't want that to be horizontal, we want it to be vertical. And then after I warp the shape, I need to expand the appearance. So I'll go Object, Expand Appearance, and now I'm going to adjust this and put it on top of the head. I'll squish that down a little bit and put it right here about the middle of his head, and then I'm going to unite that curl to the rest of the hair. So now I have a nice solid piece of hair. So I'm going to now color that hair a brown color. So I'll use my swatches, color that brown. I can set that on top of his head and then adjust it to fit his head properly. And once I've got that adjusted to fit his head properly, I'll go ahead and move on to my next part. So for the next part, I'm going to draw his Green Lantern symbol. So just so you can see it, I'm going to use black. I'm going to hold Shift when I draw it so that when I draw it, it gives me a perfect circle. And then I'm going to draw another circle that I'm going to put in the center of it. It's going to be a smaller circle. So I will switch that color probably to white just so you can see where that circle is inside there. And I'll slide that over. Once you have it in the center, you'll see a little, it'll say center. You'll see a little pink lettering saying center, so I know that that's now in place. And once I've got that into place, I'm going to select those two circles, and I'm going to use my Pathfinder to divide it. Once I divide it with the Pathfinder, I need to ungroup it, so I'll go up to Object and Ungroup, and now I'm going to delete the center. So I have a nice hole cut out in the center. So to finish this lantern shape, I'm going to take two rectangles, and when I line up on the side, you'll see that pink bar indicating to you that you are at the edge of the circle. So I'm going to line that up on both sides, and then once I've got that lined up on both sides, I'm going to copy that first rectangle. So Control C to copy, Control V to paste it, and then I'm going to line it up on the bottom, and I'll know it's in the center when I see that pink bar indicating to me that those pieces are all centered. So I'll group them all together. I'll select all the shapes and unite them together with my Pathfinder tool. Now I'm going to draw a circle for the back of it, and I'm going to draw the circle in white. So I'm going to hold Shift when I draw it so I have a perfect circle, so make it nice and big. And then I'm going to go to Object, Arrange, and I'm going to send that to the back. And right now you can't see it because my lantern is white, so I'm going to switch that to the background color. So to switch the color, I'm going to use my eyedropper tool. So the eyedropper tool, once you have a shape selected, you can take out the color from some other area. So I'm going to use the background as my green color to fill that in, and I'm going to take out the stroke in the center there around it, but I'm going to get that centered inside the circle first. And it'll say centered when you know it's in the center. And then I'm going to remove that stroke. Okay, now I'm going to take those two shapes, I'm going to group them together. So go up to Object and then Group them together. So when I move them around, they'll stay together. And I'll hold Shift when I adjust the size so it doesn't distort my perspective. Get that in the center so it'll look like it's on his chest. And now I'm ready to move on to the head. So we're going to split the head in two. And so to split the head, I'm going to move that hair out of the way. I'm going to take my scissor tool. So if you look under your eraser tool, you'll find the scissor tool. And I'm going to go right in the center, and I'm going to cut on that center line. So click to cut there, slide down to the bottom right in the center, and click to cut there. Take my selection tool, and you'll see that the right side selected. So I'm going to darken that color. So I'll click on my fill color here, and I'll slide it down to make it just a little bit darker. So one side of the face will be a little bit darker than the other. Now we're going to go ahead and draw the mask. So to draw the mask, I'm going to draw an oval shape, like so. And then I'm going to copy that oval shape. And once I copy it and paste it, so Control C to copy, Control V to paste it, I'm going to line it up, center it there, and overlap those two shapes. And once they look like they are where they need to be, I'm going to unite those two shapes together with my Pathfinder tool. Then I'll take my direct selection tool, and I'm going to take my delete anchor point tool. So under the pen tool, I'm going to take the delete anchor point. I'm going to delete that center point on the top, and now I'm going to take my direct selection tool. I'm going to pull down the center of that. And when I pull it down, it creates this little weird dip there that I don't really like. So I'm going to go over to the handles here with my direct selection tool and slide them up to flatten out that dip, because I don't like the way that looks. So I'll go to the other side, grab the handle, and slide it up to adjust that dip. I can zoom out. And I'm going to color this mask like the background. So I'm going to use my eyedropper tool and color that so that it matches the background. And I can put it on the face. It's a little big, so I'm going to shrink it down a little bit. And once I get it shrunk to the right position, so that looks good, I'm going to cut it in half with my scissor tool. Get that centered. Okay, so I'm going to take my scissor tool again, and I'll go right in the center, and I'm going to snip it at the top right in the center, and then snip it on the bottom right in the center, and then I'm going to color the right side a little bit darker. So I'll select that right side, select my fill color, and then add it a shade darker. Okay, and then I'll slide the hair back on top of his head. Looks good. Now I'm going to add a cast shadow behind this image. So to get my cast shadow, I'm going to go open up my layers, and I'm going to lock this layer, and I'm going to unlock the background layer. So I'll unlock the background layer, and I'm going to lock this top layer. So I'm going to click on the first layer, and I'm going to use my rectangle tool, and I'm going to draw a rectangle coming out from the side, and I want this to be a darker shade of green, so I'm going to use my eyedropper tool again. I'm going to suck out the green from the mess there, the darker shade. Then I'll use my direct selection tool. I'm going to click on this top anchor point, hold shift so I can select the bottom anchor point. So I'll have two anchor points selected, and I'm going to slide that down to create a slanted shadow. Then I can adjust that into position to where it looks like I want it to. And once that's all set, we'll be finished with this project, so you can see what the finished product now will look like.